So, hello everyone. Magandang umaga ulit. So, ngayon nandito naman tayo sa subject nating philosophy and we are currently on our first module with the topic A Holistic Perspective, the Philosopher's Way. Okay, so sa topic na to, pag-uusapan natin yung pinaka-holistic perspective niya, both sides. Like we will go inside the brain of a philosopher. We will gain some insights, the manner on how they think about some thoughts, at kung paano nila nape-perceive yung mga bagay-bagay. Okay? So, moving forward then, we have here our first activity for our module. Okay, sa Introduction to Philosophy of Human Person. Okay, so sa topic A natin, na holistic perspective, andito yung ating mga objectives for this topic. So foremostly, ito ay to distinguish a holistic perspective from a partial point of view. So ibig sabihin, do you expect that from bits of information galing sa mga single data na napiperceive natin, or yung mga bagay na binibigyan ng meaning o kahulugan ng ating pag-iisip. From that, we will take it from there. Gagawin natin siya as a whole picture or a whole perspective for us to be able to determine paano nga ba nadidistinguish ang holistic perspective sa unholistic perspective ng philosophy. Okay? And also, for us to accomplish a philosophical reflection on a concrete situation from a holistic perspective. Okay, so para hindi na lang tayo maguluhan, when we talk about holistic perspective, isipin nyo yung mga first thing in mind na dumarating sa ating mga isip. Like for example, if we are given the situation to decide or to make a sound judgment out of something or a situation that we are in, so it requires us to think about it and to analyze it as a whole picture, di ba? Kaya nga holistic yung approach niya. Okay? Well, going forward to the introduction of our lesson, below, meron tayo dito sa module, you can refer to that. Nakasulat dito, read the poem written by John Godfrey, okay? Sa classic Indian legend of the Six Blind Men and the Elephant. Okay? At your most convenient time, of course, basahin ng maigi, intindihin. Ito yan, from top to bottom. So, sasagutan nyo yan sa inyong mga Google Classroom. Naka-indicate na po yan doon. Nakasulat po yan doon, yung entry na yan. Okay? So, just read all throughout that poem and you shall be able to come up with some possible answers in there. Okay? There is no absolute right or wrong answer. We are only soliciting for your, let's say, best judgment for every question then, okay? Also for us to be able to gauge and know if how far is your level of thinking so far with this kind of topics. Yan. Okay? So may mga tanong dito, halimbawa sa number 1, did anyone among the blind men give the correct answer? Okay, so you will justify that, why or why not. So on with the number 2 and 3 and 4. Okay, so I am looking forward for those answers sa inyong Google Classrooms class. Okay, alright, so let's proceed. Let us talk about first philosophy and its holistic approach. Okay, so it's being stated in here on our documentation that a philosopher's way of thinking can be described as abstractive, diba? Like, best way for us to be able to compare and contrast how do they think apart from us is that imagine niyo na lang yung artwork na abstract from the word itself, the root word abstract. So minsan sasabihin natin pangit, ano ba yan, iba naman yung figure, something like that. Well, anyway, that's because that is the beauty that is being, let's say, given interpretation with the specific artist na gumawa noon, kung sino man genius ang may likha noon, 'di ba? Yan yung obra maestra nila, and they are the only ones, I believe, who can be able to interpret that in the best manner as they could, 'di ba? Sila lang ang totoong nakakaalam ano ba yung meaning ng figure na ginawa nila, ng sculpture, ng painting. Parehas din yon sa philosopher's way of thinking, 'di ba? Our decisions, your decision, and everyone else's, it will never, let's say, meet on a single point, as if my mind, diba? As if my mind is within your mind also, diba? Walang dalawang tao na absolutely, kahit pa yan ay kambal, kahit pa yan ay biological twins, never na never po na ang kanilang processes sa, let's say, sa decision making at sa sound judgment ay magkakapareho. Because it just means that it rises from the level of everyday life to a higher level that gives a bird's eye view of the whole. Diba? So, sa maikling sabi, sa Tagalog, kapag sinabing holistic approach ng philosophy, like for example, if you encounter a certain situation or phenomena, meron kang bird's eye view nito. It's as if you're seeking from above. So meaning, you are seeing all corners. Diba? The pros and cons of things. Diba? Nakasulat nga dito, try to recall an experience in which you are able to climb a tower, reach the peak of a high mountain, or view things from the window of an airplane. Sa mga nakasakay na sa aeroplano, syempre. Well, the view is certainly different from there than from the ground. Diba? Yan yung binabanggit ko kanina. Kasi pag nasa ground ka, nakikita mo lang is yung broad horizon within your eye line, diba? Yung abot lang ng mata mo, in short. Pero kapag nasa taas ka, if you are thinking way out of the box, way above the ground, you do not only see the same roads, diba, or buildings from a different perspective, but you see them all at the same time. Moreover, you also see how they are connected with each other. This is what we mean by seeing things from a holistic perspective. So long story short, wag na nating patagalin pa at hindi ko na rin kayo pahihirapan. Always remember that on the holistic approach of philosophy, it's as if you are, or let's say, you are there on the top, tinitingnan mo yung mga bagay below you, nakikita mo yung mga katabi nun, nasa harap nun, nasa likod nun, mga bagay na hindi mo makikita kapag nasa level ka rin ng grounds view ng iyong subject, diba? Halimbawa dito, let's proceed then. Yan. Katulad dito, binabanggit nila yung mga first philosophers daw in history hailed from the ancient Greek civilization, diba? Which makes this civilization so special for philosophy of today, diba? Comparing sa atin na meron na tayong mga aeroplano, satellite, spaceship, na kung tutuusin, mas mag-aalaw sa atin na makita as a whole yung buong mundo, diba? Pero yung mga philosophers noon, they had insight, diba? Anong ibig sabihin ng insight? Seeking with the mind, diba? Sabi, as defined by Ferriols on the citation last 2001. Okay, the ancient Greek philosophers asked the questions, what makes us all connected with each other? Ano-ano yung mga bagay na sabihin nating nagbubuklod sa atin, di ba? Because somehow or one way or another, we are interconnected with each other, whether we like it or not, di ba? What makes us one? and what underlies everything that exists. So, isa yun sa mga, let's say, pinaka malalalim na tanong noong panahon nila, because it merely talks about the concept of existence at its best. Diba? Sabi nga, the first noted philosopher in Western history, si Thales, nabuhay siya between 624 and 545 BC. Siya isang thinker na gustong-gustong tumingala sa mga bituin, di ba? And by sensing the harmony in the movements of heavenly bodies, habang na-observe niya na parang synchronize yung galaw ng mga planeta at ng mga star, di ba? He said that everything is related to each other because everything that exists contain water. So that is his own perspective during that day, si Thales. Diba? Today, yung sagot sa question ni Thales na what makes us one would be regarded as silly or outdated. Diba? Bakit? Kasi it is not for the purpose na they're here to defend the answer of the first philosopher. Pero our aim nga daw is to understand how a philosophical mind moves, di ba? From the previous paragraphs, natutunan natin na yung pagkakaroon ng philosophical insight ay ibig sabihin, we're able to see with the mind. So, this literally means that we're able to think philosophically, and you must learn to look beyond what is immediately before you. Diba? Moreover, you must learn to and see how a big thing is related to everything else. Diba? Gaano man yung kalaki, actually, or gaano man yung kaliit, meron siyang mark ng holistic perspective. So it really doesn't necessarily require one thing to be, let's say, a big chunk of concept or a little bit of data para magkaroon tayo ng holistic perspective sa mga bagay na yun. I know somehow this kind of topics are quite difficult to understand at your level. That's why we would be using real life, let's say, experiences and situations, sharing of thoughts later, sa ating mga life experiences, especially involving decision making and perception of things. Okay, so the movement from everyday experience towards one is a holistic point of view. Yan, tinatawag nilang salient characteristic of philosophical thinking, di ba? So, in summary, to understand philosophy is to engage with it. Okay, para maintindihan mo yung tinatawag nitong love of wisdom, di ba? The wisdom itself. Dapat engage ka doon. Dapat pinapractice mo. Dapat, let's say, by heart, you should know the simple principles. Like, for example, I'll give you one. Like, just doing the right thing every day. That's one very difficult task to actually accomplish with your life. Imagine every day you have to do all of the right things, always do the good things, diba? And for some, that is the way of living, diba? For some, that is let's say a closure for or a sign for weakness, diba, sa iba. But it really depends on the person or on the individual itself, on how do they perceive those kind of things and thoughts, diba? Sabi nga, if philosophy has a basic requirement, one can engage in it, that would be encouraged to break open in our partial perspective. So, let's say, para ikaw ay ma-engage sa, let's say, sa philosophy itself, dapat open your mind, open yung heart and mind mo, rather. So, it literally doesn't talk about the organs itself, but anyway, the mind, the brain itself or the mind represents your thoughts, and syempre your heart, it represents you as a kind-hearted person then, diba? Yung iba, they can tend to be, let's say, cruel or let's say they tend to become less let's say less caring. Yeah, yun yung proper term, diba? Let us not use those harsh words, diba? Like a bad person or not. You know, somehow I've come to realize everyone has their reasons, diba? Coming to think of it, sabi nga ng isang philosopher, dalawa lang naman yan. It's either man was all born to be good, or man was like literally born all bad, just aiming to be good, diba? So one of the few things which is very debatable when it comes to philosophy itself, especially nowadays na nakikita nyo, why is that such crimes involves, diba, the burning of the victim, diba? Minsan kinakalas-kalas pa nila, they just throw it away. Well, that's very inhumane in nature. But coming to think about it in a philosophical perspective, there must be something which drive them to do that, diba? Yun naman ang tao eh. They always, or let's say, alipin sila ng drive, diba? Yung mga bagay na, let's say, mas nagmo-motivate or mas nag-uudyok, diba? Proper term, mas nag-uudyok sa kanila to do those kind of manners, diba? Which is literally out from the box, diba? And doing philosophy entails a holistic rather than a partial perspective. So do take note of that. And we are able to see the connectedness of parts to see a meaningful whole. So ibig sabihin, if you and me and everyone else, kapag nakuha natin yung mga common traits natin, mga commonalities and differences rather, that is the time that we are able to see connectedness with each other, diba? Because being connected naman, it doesn't mean to say that it's always on a positive way, diba? Di naman porket connected ako sa kanya, positive na yung relationship namin. No, it does not work that way. So either be it a negative endeavor or a positive, let's say, outcome out of the relationship, interrelationship of us as a person, diba? That literally just defines that we are connected which is with each other, whether we like it or not, diba? From rising to working to sleeping, magkakatuksong at magkakaugnay po ang lahat ng bagay sa philosophy. Okay, so on our second activity, basahin ng maigi yung mga questions sa baba. So here's what you're going to do, and write your answers on your notebook. Of course, after writing it on your notebook, kindly upload it to your Google Classroom then, okay? Take your time to read all of these questions. So we have here the first, second, third entry, the fourth and fifth. Yan. Yan po yung let's say end part ng unang part ng mga activities for this chapter, diba? Okay. So take note of the quote above, okay? All right. So let's proceed with the lesson 2. Okay. So what does it mean to be a philosopher then? Okay. So our objectives in here, number 1 is to discuss the meaning of what it means to be a philosopher, and number 2 is to determine the importance of being a philosopher. Diba? Kasi diba, when we describe someone as philosopher daw, so ano yung perspective nyo doon? That is for your activity in here, okay? On your lesson 2. And number 2, just have to think through that question, be able to write that on your notebook with the answer, and write that on your Google Classroom for the subject then. Okay? So sa lesson 2 natin, let's read this then. Like before you enter this subject, you must have heard or used a number of jokes about philosophers, diba? Kasi philosophers had been the object of laughter for as long as the world can remember daw, diba? Si Thales nga nung panahon niya, diba, pinagtatawanan siya kapag nakatingala siya sa mga bituin sa ulap, di ba? At hindi lang siya, actually si Socrates, ginagaya-gaya din siya ng mga colleagues niya nung panahon because yung mga thoughts and ideals daw ni Socrates at ng mga ibang philosophers ay, let's say, hindi naaayon ng time nila, di ba? Kapag nung panahon, alam nyo ba, FYI, nung unang panahon, kapag sinabi mong ang Earth ay bilog at ang Earth ay umiikot sa Sun, di ba? You will be condemned and be given the death sentence by that time, di ba? Kasi dinidefy mo yung mga naunang gods, which like literally means that yung unang panahon pala, naniniwala yung mga tao sa geocentricity. Kung narinig nyo na yung term na yun, wala yun dito sa ating text pero mabanggit ko lang, yung geocentric approach nila noon na ang lahat ng bagay ay umiikot sa mundo at mundo ang pinaka-supreme na, let's say, planeta sa buong universe, diba? Kasi they believe that the world itself is let's say is the massive of it all, diba? Yan yung pinakamalaking planeta daw. But well, anyway, it was then disclosed when other philosophers were able to prove na yung Earth pala yung umiikot sa Sun, diba? They made it through the discovery of calculus, trigonometry, and etc., which shall be further discussed later, okay? Because in our context in here, we have used the term philosopher to refer to someone, di ba? Yung mga palatanong, many of which are judged as nonsense, out of this world, di ba? We often, colloquially, what I mean, we often refer to as a person, as a philosopher kapag seryoso kayo, nag-uusap kayo, tapos biglang may magtatanong paulit-ulit just to get attention. And it really annoys us, you know. Let's face the truth. Nakaka-annoy nga naman yung ganung pag-uugali, di ba? Pero, what really is a philosopher? Now, to answer this question, balikan natin yung origin ng word philosophy, di ba? So, etymological meaning ng etymological, we are rooting down how the term philosophy then was coined. So, it was taken from the Greek words philos or philien, which means love, okay? And sophia, which generally means wisdom. So, it's basically a love of wisdom. Philosophy. Philosophian time niya. Okay? So, we can best appreciate this by recalling the story of Socrates, diba? Whose life and death is a moving picture of his love. Okay. So, ngayon, here is what we are going to do. In here, we have a brief text about Socrates. Be able to read through it. Okay. If you could take down some notes to your notebooks, much better. Okay. So, read all throughout the way. Dito, umpisa kay Socrates hanggang sa pinakababa, be able to internalize the simple life and how hard was it for him to be able to cope up with the situation na he as a philosopher, he has to undergo, let's say, parang tawag dito, parang may verdict sa kanya, yun yung term. Parang may verdict sa kanya palagi na siya ay being outcasted because of his principles, diba? So, you can also see in here that the term philosopher connotes to an image of a comical or sometimes annoying character, described to as what the, let's say, foregoing sentences are, diba? So, try to take a look at it and compare and contrast. Ano nga ba yung pinagkaiba ni philosopher kay philosopher? Of course, you can do it at your most convenient time. The purpose of this video is to give you a walkthrough. How are you going to navigate through your module? Paano kayo magsasagot sa module nyo? At ano-ano yung bagay na dapat nyong i-take down notes, okay? So, in summary, You can see in here the etymology of the word philosophy itself. And we have here our next activity, which is also in your Google Classroom. So answer the following questions below, 1, 2, and that would be also uploaded to your Google Classroom, okay? Well, so much for that. For any, let's say, concern, kung nagkaka-error kayo sa video or sa module itself, kindly notify me as soon as possible, okay? Not to consume much of your time, that would be the end of our first module then. So have a safe week, everyone. And my regards to all of you, my dear students, okay? You do keep safe, everyone, and God bless you, okay? Goodbye.